depth of the box is determined by the length of the sides. Does that make sense? And it's because this piece starts all the way up at the front and continues all the way to the back. I like how our miter box, you're cutting into this size, and then if you cut the miter correctly, that panel stays that size and becomes the overall dimension. So when we figure this out here, you're going to take the width of your box, subtract 1 5/8 inches, sorry, the inside width of your box, subtract 1 5/8 inches, and then add back twice the thickness of the material that you're using. That's what that formula describes. Is everyone still with me? Does list the drawer parts up top here. But that is under the assumption that this box is exactly its dimensions. So don't look at this and assume that that's what you need to do. What I would do is figure out. Figure out the size of the pieces that you need, and then just cross these out and replace them with a number. And that way you can just look at this and use it as your reference. This saw blade is just under 1/8 of an inch in thickness. A dado stack is effectively a stack of saw blades that can range anywhere from 1/4 inch all the way up to 3/4 of an inch in thickness in one minute. So when you open up the actual dado stack itself, up top there's 2 blades that are on the outside of your stack. And then you have these chip breakers. What do we remember about crosscut blades? More teeth. There's another important detail. The gullet. All blades will have a gullet. An important detail about a crosscut blade is that they have teeth that alternate in the gullet. One points up to the right, the other points to the left. With a dado stack, this blade, which sits on the left side of the blade, has teeth that point only to the left. And then this one has teeth that only point to the right. Sorry, I'm mixed up. This one has teeth that points to the left. This one only has teeth that point to the right. So this is important because these two sit on the outside. They effectively act as cross-cutting teeth.
Can you reverse it like that?
Like this.
No, I mean, I can't tell which was left, which was right. But can I do this?
No.
No?
Because you always want to look at the face of each tooth when you put it in. So if you reverse it, you're going in the wrong direction. In between the outside cutters, we have these chip breakers. And these are just designed to clear away waste material from the middle of the kerf. You stack those inside the stack in such a way that it increases the thickness of the overall saw. An important note when we put this into the saw, these chip breakers need to be balanced. So putting them in like this is not such a great idea. Just like your tires, you need to balance them. You need to make sure that there's equal weight rotational forces going on.
So if you have a third one?
Yeah, exactly. If you have a third one, I would set it up like that. So we'll need the 2 chip breakers and the 2 outer cutters, and that's it. One other note. You can also use these shims to dial in the thickness of your stack if you need to. If you you need to do a cut that's really precise. You need to fit something that's a very precise thickness. There's shims that go up to 0.1 of a millimeter. So you can dial it in really nicely. I've never experienced that, and I think this is the max thickness that you want to put between each one, because each one of these blades, there's some what's called tooths. So if you see, the width of the tooth is quite a bit wider than the width of the saw blade itself. If you have more than this, it won't clear that away and you'll be left with. So no more than one of these thicker 1 millimeter discs on either side. I'm gonna go over that with you. I already have turned the saw off. To this point, we're pretty familiar. This is where things start to change a little bit. For one, the riving knife must come out of this. This handle flips up, riving knife comes out. The next thing, riving knife, R-I-V-E. So this gray handle flips up, and then you can pop that driving knife out. The next thing that needs to happen, this is a dado stack saw stop cartridge.
Oh.
This is a regular
What do you do?
saw stop.
Where did that come from?
I will show you. I will show you.
God.
So this is the cartridge that goes in with a regular 10-inch blade. It's a lot thinner, and there's not as much thickness this way because it's only for a 10-inch blade. The dado stack is an 8-inch blade, so it needs to eat up some thickness in that direction, and it's a lot wider because the dado stack can go wider as well.
This is electronic for the safety.
Exactly. So when someone says that they set off the saw stop, what happened is they cause this block of aluminum to shoot upwards into the spinning blade, and that pulls it down into the table as well.
So that's
Yes, 100%. Yeah. So, how does this go into the saw? I'm gonna block the camera here because the best angle for me is right here to show everybody. So down in the saw, take a look. There's a pin down here. You can see it. And then there's another pin. You draw a line directly down this handle, right below where it ends here. Right underneath that is another pin.
Yeah.
So the lower pin pops in here, the higher pin is here, and this red key ends up in this slot. Ends up in this slot, and then it's put down. So this is locked, this is unlocked. When we go through and we all change the blade, that is the part that most people have the most trouble with. Please ask questions. If it's not, if for whatever reason, it's like, I don't know how to get this thing in here, ask away. So we have the rubbing knife out, we have the brake changed. The next thing is to actually start loading the stack into the saw. I like to load the blades one at a time. And because we need to balance these, I like to put this one in perfectly horizontal. And then I'll put the next one in vertically. You can choose to do it however you like. That's how I like to do it, keep track of things. We want to avoid a situation like this, where you've got the teeth right next to one another, right? If you run into that situation and you tighten the stack down like that, you could actually end up with one of these blades out and not flush, not right up against the adjacent blade. So keep that in mind when you're installing this. We want to stagger those teeth. They might move when you tighten it, but initially when you put the stack in, we want to make sure those teeth are staggered. We do omit this washer because if we put this on, the nut can't thread all the way on. So we omit the washer.
You will use only 2 blades?
Yes,
The
2 blades and then the outer ones. And that is forming a half-inch-ish finger here. And there's a very specific reason too why we're using that. It's because this jig is set up to work with that exact size. If you vary the size, then the jig won't work. Close everything up as we normally would. I make sure that's down nice and tight. I'm going to drop this into the table. And I'm going to do a stop-start test with the blade dropped into the table, so if something isn't installed correctly, if it's loose, if something were to pop off, it's more contained inside the table.
You do that every time you switch it to this.
To this thing. I have once in my life seen a machine jump up and down because something wasn't installed correctly, and that scared me enough to check it every time. It wasn't a dado stack, but it was something.
Do you do that with
Just that
regular
not earlier.
blade swaps?
Typically not, because you're not. I can tell pretty quickly if it's not seated correctly and adjust accordingly. But there's a lot going on in there, so just in case I miss something. That's as simple as that. You're listening for any rattling. It sounds okay to me. Sounds all right. Maybe a little bit deep. That's effectively what you can do with it. Okay? And I've selected this orientation. Then I'm going to bring these together. Track well. And I'll draw a triangle. And then I'll draw a triangle as well. To denote front and back. It's very important that we don't screw up the orientation of this. We need the front and back to be the front and back, and the sides to be the sides. So I've got my top edge, and I've got my 4 pieces oriented how I want them. We can move on to cutting this corner. Where this comes in. This looks similar to something else that we've used. This is just a sled. And this sled is specifically for cutting box joints. And if you all come in close, you'll see that it has this pin, this finger, on the inside. And that finger is exactly 1 finger thickness away from where that blade is cut. First things first, we need to set the depth of cut for this, which is the thickness of the material. So you're going to set the height of the blade above the sled to the thickness of the material. Something like that.
Is there a trick to that, or you're just feeling it out?
I'm just feeling it, but what you could do as well is use a ruler or a straight edge, and just until you're getting a little bit of that.
Yeah.
We're kind of all here.
You're not.
Because the hole needs to fit thickness of the other.
So I think it'll all make sense when I actually get
Yeah.
this thing going.
Jump in
Because
the
everyone's like, what is going on? What is happening here is we want each finger to protrude as far as the thickness of the next mating piece. So the height of the blade, increasing the height of the blade will do this to the joint. Decreasing the height of the blade will do this.
Didn't get that.
I will show you.
Yeah. I think we'll see this.
Could you hit the desk button? And I'm gonna get everyone around to the left side here. So I'm cutting this corner. I'm starting with the front or the back, one of the two. The top edge is gonna go up like this and point to the left. And it's gonna butt directly into that finger. You'll then take this and slip it again over that finger, making sure you got it tight to that sled. Rinse and repeat. You'll end up with this little half finger at the end. So that makes a little bit more sense now. So if we make that blade higher, it cuts further this way, and it makes the teeth stick out more, the fingers stick out more as you put these together. So for the mating corner, this is important. This top edge, we're going to use this piece as a reference, as a spacer to create the other one. This top edge now gets turned around, so it's pointing that way. And it goes over the finger in that manner. The mating piece, that top edge, is still pointing that way. So the piece that you're working on, always pointing that way with the top edge. And it butts up directly to that other piece.
You're putting the last hole that you're cutting that one.
The first one. The first one. We are building it from the top down. If you measure from here, that's no good. We're measuring this. luck, it'll go together pretty nicely. If it's a little bit tight, you can always run it again, and that usually loosens it up enough that you can get it seated. But effectively, that's what we're looking for. See if I can get this properly. So now you see how those ones are passed? Because it's way higher than the thickness of your material. I would rather it protrude slightly because it's easier to sand that back than if it's too shallow. You have to sand this whole surface down to the fingers. That's a lot harder to do. So if anything, get it slightly, and I'm talking like a paper thin amount above the thickness of the material, a minimum. Any questions?
You have different size on pieces,
Yeah, so normally what I would do is I start with this one, right? Da-da-da-da-da-da. I got to this last finger, and all I'm gonna do is take it and flip it this way and start over. And that way I'm building it, again, from the top down on both ends. And
You always want the top of your base line.
yeah, the PC we're working on. This is the front left corner. If I was doing the front right corner, so if this was over here, let's say, I would want to use this specific corner to make this specific joint. I wouldn't want to use this. In theory, they should be pretty similar, but best practice, we use one joint, mating joint to create the other. Distance from the bottom to the bottom of the box, so basically from this line to this corner, that needs to be ½ inch. Okay, and that is listed on your drawing. So we will actually we'll trim this a little bit. We're gonna just trim this little half finger off on the tail side. So for that, all I would do is take this, line up your fence to trim that off, and then this nice even look. Just that little half finger. So I'm not really measuring. All I'm doing is setting the fence against this finger here, because this one had the little notch coming off of here. So I just use my piece as a reference. I line up the fence based on that. Run it. Because if you were to leave it and you measure ½ inch up, you end up putting the groove right between two fingers. You want to land it right on top of one of them. After that, then you can set your fence at ½ inch. And then we're going to end up running the bottom against that. So you see how now it's completely within that finger? And that's the kind of height that we're looking for.
So the height of like
Yes, ½ inch from the fence. on that bit. I'm going to pull it back. See if we can get through this. Reason number two is when we trim off the little half finger and then set the blade a half an inch, that will make sure that that notch ends up only. Start from the front, trim the half finger, and then the fence is half an inch from the blade on your first pass. And then every pass you bump the fence away from the blade, not towards the blade. Okay? Oh, wait. Called a brad nailer or a brad nail gun. This shoots, brad nails are 18 gauge nails, which are this thickness. 18 gauge is the thickness. The way you load this, the head of the nail is here, is to the back of the gun. Slides in like so. This lever opens it up. And it won't shoot. This needs to get hooked up to the air nozzle. So you hear clicking. So when it clicks, it locks itself. If you pull it past the clicks, now it'll automatically retract the hose. So pull enough out, you can do some work.
Oh
Shoot
my
that
god.
So this, the way these work, you pull down on this to release whatever is attached to it. Okay. And as well to install an air tool, you'll pull back on this while you do that. Do be careful. That's also a way to release air. I really want to remove that thing.
So it's not electric, it's air pressure.
This is an air power. This is a pneumatic tool. Don't point it at people, please.
Oh my god.
It will not fire unless the head is depressed. So I can't fire this as it is here. But if I push down on here, then it will shoot the nail.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
To shoot all the way through. So do be cautious not to hit it like that. Yeah? So again, front and back. Probably 2 nails is enough. 1, 2. And the same thing on this side. 1, 2, 3. That's going to hold that together. That's not coming apart anymore.
With glue.
With glue.
With glue.
And a glue is just like a dot in each space, basically.
Yeah, just a dot on each finger, really. And big important, don't forget the drawer bottom. Don't glue it up without the drawer bottom.
Oh my god.
So I assume that jigsaw puzzles were originally made with jigsaws,
Okay.
but I don't know. I don't really know.
I'll take it.
This is a jigsaw blade. Little guy. They come in different lengths, different tooth counts. This is a up-cutting blade because the teeth point upwards. You install it in the tool like so. There are also down-cutting jigsaw blades. I prefer the up-cutting blades because they will actually pull the tool into the workpiece versus pushing the workpiece and the tool away from each other. It's a little safer, a little bit easier to control. To install this blade, you've got this Allen wrench. You've got this Allen wrench that fits into this screw here, right? Making sure the tool is unplugged.
Sorry, what are you using this for?
I will show you. So you'll loosen that screw until you can pop the jigsaw into the holder here, and then just tighten that down, and the screw holds it in place.
And it goes between these two little discs.
Yes, it'll go between the two rollers here. So those help keep it from moving side to side. Just gonna plug it in over here so I can demonstrate my things. So this jigsaw has a couple of modes. Normally, it's oscillating straight up and down. You can also change the amount that it orbits. So with this, what it does is it moves it forward and back as well as up and down for a more aggressive cut. Generally speaking, I'll leave that on the 0 mark. Jigsaws are great for cutting curves, great for cutting lots of different things. It's a freehand tool. So the reason that we need these notches the way these fit it sits directly against the bottom of the drawer. So you actually need to notch out a place for that bar to sit. There's also this little pin notch where that hook goes. That hook, again, determines the length of your drawer. There is a little bit of play. It doesn't, if you're a little bit off from 11 and 32 skates, you can probably still make it work. I think it could probably go up to another 32nd, 16. But if the closer you are to 11, sorry, yeah, to 13/16, better. So this notch, oh, there's this second notch too, because this gap strut won't clear it fast enough. Please look at this drawer and use it as a reference for your projects. If this were your box, you know, you need to notch something like that. The jigsaw is a great way to do that. Doesn't need to be pretty. It can be, no, you're never gonna see it. You're never gonna see it. You'll start by screwing these clips in to the bottom here. I think you could probably screw it directly into your drawer bottom, but make sure that the screw doesn't go all the way through. That's my one concern. If it does go all the way through, there's some solutions for it, but probably not. We're already using pretty short screws. They're already ½ an inch. But what we could do is just not put it all the way. So we'll figure it out. I'm not sure what plywood is pulled for you guys yet. Normally, this type of clip would be used on a thicker drawer bottom than a 1/4 inch, but this is what we've got, so that's what we're using. And the other option too, if it really isn't working out, it's got 2 holes for the front that go in at an angle. that's an option too. Or whatever one tends to work better we'll use. So you'll screw those in, we'll drill some pilot holes for that. We're just gonna use the hand drill for that. Do we need to go over the hand drill? We all used a hand drill before? Okay. So once you've got these in, like you were saying, you can just kind of pop that in place and see, just mark a mark, see where that lines up. For these little guys, what I like to do is I'll put this here and it'll be actually sitting right up against the back, and I'll take a mallet and whack it, and that will mark your piece so you know exactly where to put a little hole. I would grab a 1/4 inch drill bit from the front and just drill about halfway into your drawer box. Yeah, don't go all the way through into the back of your drawer. If you need to, there's a way to if you need to, let's say drill only halfway through something and not all the way, and you want to make sure you're not going to drill all the way through. If you put a piece of tape at the depth that you want to cut it to, and then use that as a depth stop, now you know how far to drill. Slides are able to pop in. We've got the notch taken out. We've got our hole drilled in the back for the hook. You are literally exactly here. This is where you are. From this point, we're ready to put this into your box. You should have your drawer front on hand with you.
Where's that?
You're gonna make it.
Well, separately, or is it coming from the?
It's coming from the pile, right? So the same material that we're using for this, we're also using for the drawer front. There are a couple people that maybe had some boards that didn't work out. Maybe we can salvage some of that material for the drawer front. If you need to laminate pieces together, you can do that.
Oh, so it's all of that again.
Yeah, smaller scale.
Sounds
Much smaller scale.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. I thought we were done.
So, how are we going to get this into here? Couple techniques for doing this. What I've had the most success with, from my experience installing drawers, generally speaking, is to use some kind of a spacer block that supports the drawer as you install the thing. Now, normally that works really well with ball bearing drawer slides or side mounted drawer slides because there's nothing obstructing the bottom. You can actually just rest it right on top of some piece of wood and then pull it out incrementally and screw it as it pull it out. Because the drawer slides are on the bottom of this, we're going to use the same concept, but we're going to flip the whole thing upside down and use spacers off the top. So these are just 1/2 inch pieces. I would just grab a couple pieces of 1/2 inch plywood from the scrap bin, slice them into like 3 inch wide, 2 inch wide strips, and use it for this purpose. First, we need to install the drawer box, and then we install the front to the box while it's in the piece of furniture. While it's in the inside. So, I've got it in here. The reason that I need this is because I'm going to use this as a spacer to align this front to back. So in this instance, this is a inlaid drawer, inset drawer, sorry, which means that the front sits behind the front edge. If you decided you wanted to do a full overlay, which is where instead of sitting here, the front would kind of sit on top like that, then it's the same idea, but you would just align your drawer, the front of your drawer, you would align that with the front here.
You need a
But
bigger.
doesn't that look better?
Pardon me?
Doesn't looking good look better like the first one?
I agree.
Okay.
So what you'll do is you'll have this lined up so that you've got this, like you've got your drawer where you want it.
Did you create a lighter?
Yeah. So this is actually with a router bed.
Oh.
This is done on the router table. I've made pencil marks right in front here, right in front of my drawer slides. Right here. And right there as well. And those are important because you're going to pull the drawer out and the slides might move around a little bit, but you need to be able to push them back to where they need to be. So I've still got my spacers down here. These are keeping it level with the top of the box. Are we still with me? Still with me? When I turn this around, now you can see there's screw holes that are exposed. Here. Oh, not quite.
Oh, now there's not IKEA.
No.
Like you don't just stick it in, you look out the holes, you're good to go.
What is this called? The drawer?
Drawer front. The applied face. No simple
I'll
terminology.
have to decode that another day.
So you're lining up the box, your drawer inside of like first, deciding where it's going to go, and then you pull it forward.
So slide the drawer out, keep the slides where they are.
Yeah, keep the slides where they are. So I'm making sure that the front edge of my slides are still lined up with that mark that I made.
So like, it's actually pretty ingenious, like whoever, the guy who invented IKEA, like he took all of
He's
this,
like,
simplified it, and it's like, here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
Like, wow,
Absolutely.
smart guy.
mark, so you mark where your
The front of the drawer slide is. So I'll turn this back around so you know what I'm talking about here. Right there.
yeah.
See how there's a pencil
What's
mark
touching
there?
it?
Yeah, yeah, yes.
You constant line. And it's just to kind of.
I think we're all super tired.
Yeah, why are
Everybody's like drunk today.
No.
It's crazy.
It is almost 9, so I don't blame you.
We're
Do we kind of get the idea that we're going to use spacers and we're going to be like using them to keep the drawer level as we install this thing?
Because we need to level like it up and down, and then keep the spacers in the right place.
Yeah, exactly. We're using those spacers to keep the drawer in the right place here. And so you can get to 2 of them. You can get to 2 of the holes that you will need.
Is that enough?
I mean, there's a few holes there, so just like front.
Yeah, I'll show you which ones
Okay.
in just a moment. I'll show you which ones I would recommend using. So I've got these 2 at the back, and then this one up front.
So 3.
3. Once you have the 2 in the back, you can remove the drawer entirely, and now you've got access to those ones. And because I've already installed these, they've been pre-drilled and they've already had a screw in them. You will need to pre-drill into the side of your box before you drive a screw into it, otherwise you could split your board open. That's where that trick with the tape comes in handy too, so you don't pre-drill all the way through the side of your
So
box.
pre-drill and then you put the screw.
There you
Did
go.
you do that?
Yes.
Okay.
How are we doing? We're almost there. We're almost there. The last thing to do is to install. Getting it on and off. The last thing to do is to put the drawer front on. In a perfect world, you'll have done this in such a way where you could put it up and it will actually like look nice. Obviously it won't fall off, right? But if you needed to, you could hypothetically put a shim in there, cheat it a little bit. Now is the time to kind of make those adjustments.
Shim.
Once-
Is it basically adding another piece or something?
Shim is like a really, really thin piece of material that you use to push something,
But I mean, if we set it correctly,
then you shouldn't need that.
Perfect worlds. The world is imperfect.
Did we put the bolts together yet?
This guy's gonna be quite handy.
Oh.
Nice.
I see.
Like this isn't tucked like butt up against the top, even though it has a bit of space.
No, it has a bit of space, and so now is your opportunity to keep that clamp on tight because
Nice.
you can adjust it a little bit. If you need to, you can pull it out and kind of give it a little, do what you need to do. Use that clamp to kind of help you position your.
do we
Front.
leave a space or do we not leave a space?
You do leave a space.
Why?
Yes. Because otherwise it wouldn't open and close.
Moves, right?
Wood moves, yeah, that's the other thing. So along its length, this space here can be pretty small. This is a pretty tight gap. I prefer that. Like I don't like seeing like large spaces. So I do prefer like